Hi, I'm Nick, and I like comics.
And I'm Adam, and I know comics.
Welcome to another episode of Adam and Nick Spoil Some Comics, where we spoil some comics. Today we are talking about Batman and Robin Eternal number 9 and All New X-Men number 1. Now, if you're not interested in Batman and Robin Eternal, there's a link below where you can go ahead and skip to where we talk about All New X-Men.
Batman and Robin Eternal number 9 is written by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, with Roger Antonio, the artist.
The issue starts off with Jason and Tim, who are flying a Batwing over Santa Prisca.
The most dangerous airspace in the Western Hemisphere.
Right, so they're flying around and they are being chased by these airplanes getting shot at, and they're trying to land on this island or peninsula.
I like this little thing where Tim's like, man, did Batman just give you that cape? I mean, is that how we're going to get out of this? And he's like, no, I stole it.
Because their plane is going to hit, so they have to jump out. That's why Jason stole this...
paragliding bat cape.
Right. And then the next scene, their Batwing has blown up and they are jumping out and they are flying as normal human people do with capes.
Of course.
Right.
They played a Batman video game.
Right, exactly. Batman can fly, apparently.
Apparently.
After they land and they are chopping through trees and foliage and all that stuff, Jason is using his
very expensive Japanese military swords.
Right, they are looking for some base on the island. In the last issue, whenever they were in Gomorrah, they found a guy who said Angel of Death.
Right.
Okay, and which through their conversation, I guess, it led them to this island. So they're looking around, and then they find this pretty castle.
It looks very Disney-esque.
It very, very much looks very Disney-esque. So as they see this pretty church building Disney castle looking thing, Jason Todd, Red Hood, asks who would build a church on top of the world's most infamous super prison.
Tim's answer: the Crusade of St. Dumas. Apparently the Order of St. Dumas is not a traditional church. There's a lot of stories about it, something to do with maybe propaganda, but apparently a lot of it deals with experimental technology sold on the black market. So very similar to Mother's Signal apparently, but not actually what they were looking for.
Jason brings up whenever they talk about this, everywhere they do business, these, I guess, St. Dumas people, the same legend spreads throughout the underworld. An angelic hitman with a flaming sword.
Sound familiar?
So, and if you don't know Batman lore, you will find out who they're talking about here in a little bit.
Right.
They're talking about maybe the orphan is here, so that's why they decide to go and check out what's going on. And lo and behold, out of nowhere comes Bane, and he punches Jason right in the face. Then Bane says, hey, you came to my home. What are you guys doing here? Have you come here to hunt me down? This is my island. As they're fighting, there's just some banter going back and forth about how Jason Todd and Tim Drake are like, hey, why are you doing this? And Bane's like, hey, this is my island. You know, I'm here to protect it. You guys don't belong here.
And then Bane puts Red Hood's face into the ground, breaking his helmet.
And Tim Drake pulls out a gun.
And then Bane calls him on his bluff.
And then Jason, as he's laying there knocked out with his mask broken, he's like, don't worry, I've got this under control.
Tim then questions him about this Angel of Death, and Bane knows what he's talking about. They come to the conclusion that maybe they should work together, that the island should belong to Bane.
We cut over to Prague, where Dick and Harper are now in the Praguean Batcave, and they're just having a conversation. Harper is
getting beat up by sticks.
Right. Basically, Dick is training her. He's being the Batman to her that Bruce Wayne never was.
So this scene, it looks very reflective of older times with Batman and Robin, where Batman's researching on an old-timey looking computer now, you know, and Robin would be like, I'm ready to go, let's do this, let's get out there. But in this case, Dick is the one saying, we need to sit back, we need to do some research, we need to get our facts straight. And Bluebird is just way too excited to get out there and go suit up and go fight some bad guys. And it's just very, very interesting to see that.
Right. One thing that we learn about this is that Dick has said that the mother's whole operation has totally vanished from Prague. So just it seemed like, you know, yesterday or, you know, a couple days ago, whenever they had encountered her, now she's totally gone and they can't find her anywhere.
Dick pays her a compliment that, you know, he calls her smart and that her tech makes even Tim Drake jealous. But really, ultimately, she's just lucky, and luck runs out. And that's when she tells him her whole backstory about how her mother was killed, murdered in Gotham, and that her brother and her dad were a criminal and a drunk, respectively, and that, you know, She got smart and she got angry to become a hero without anybody's permission. She didn't need
Right.
it. And Dick was like, sorry, I didn't realize your life sucked too.
Right. And so then he has this paper and he says, you really want to save lives? You want to do some help? And he hands her some paperwork that just has a bunch of numbers written all over it. And basically he's like, hey, use your smarts, use your tech to figure this stuff out. Flashback to Prague several years ago, where Bruce Wayne is walking through the streets of Prague, going to his meeting with the mother. And he goes in, and as he opens up the door, he says, hello, mother. And she says, hello, Batman?
What?
So she knew all along, and you can see
Insanity.
right, and you can see as Bruce Wayne opens the door that the orphan is hanging out, getting ready to pounce and getting ready to attack. There's this conversation where basically the mother said, as soon as you put that tracker on me, which happened in Batman and Robin Eternal number 8, as soon as you put that tracker on me, I figured out who you were.
While she's doing the classic villain monologue saying how she figured everything out, he has to fight the orphan off and gets the crap kicked out of him. And the last part of it shows her with a knife to his throat saying, I know what you really need. You need a better Robin. That's what you came here for. She's been saying that a lot, it seems like. But in classic Batman taste, he takes her weapon, says no deal,
Breaks it in half,
throws a
smoke
gas
bomb.
Yeah, and Orphan says, can I hunt him down? She says no. Let him run.
Then she says, let the truth weigh him down every single step. Break his legs with doubt. Fill his world with fear until it brings him back to me. All she is doing is planting seeds of doubt, making him question, is this what I should be doing? Am I doing right by Robin? Is he the right person for this job?
Flash forward to the present with Bane shaving off his awesome beard. Come on, dude.
With a knife, though. I mean, if you're going to shave off your beard, you should shave it off with a big knife like
Pretty
that.
hardcore. We're just going to leave the mustache.
So they go and they find a way into this church, castle, prison thing, presumably because this is the prison that Bane grew up in. And so he kind of knows the ins and outs of the island and how to get in and all that stuff.
All while he's using this story about how the island was named and kind of references it about how he's the eagle protecting the island from this old story, and how they, kind of similar to how they are child soldiers of a cave, like a dwelling god. It's all kind of connected there.
They break into the church, and then they find this room full of all these wine barrels. But they notice that it's 34 degrees, and they say, this is way too cold for wine, so it's got to be something else. And they figure it out that it's some sort of chemical.
Jason makes a joke about how back in the Narrows they called him the Lockpick Kid, and Bane just looks at him and says, that's a ridiculous name.
Jason's funny.
He is.
As they continue to go through, they come to this corridor kind of hallway looking thing.
It's like a Tron.
Yeah, it looks very Tron-y. Jason makes some comment about Holy Nightclub, which is then reminiscent of Burt Ward's Batman Holy, whatever Batman. Tim uses his tech to mask them from the drones, the security system, and then they walk in to the main cathedral, the main temple area, and we see this guy getting ready to drink this liquid, which they have deduced that the liquid that he is getting ready to drink is the same stuff that was in the wine cellar.
Right.
Bane notices that these guys are his soldiers, not some random guys.
So we see a red-bearded man drinking this liquid, and he begins to speak, Yo puedo hablar, and meaning I can speak. And Bane points out, no, that man was born mute. The people of the church realize that they're actually there and call them out as heretics and begin to attack them.
As they break into the church area and they're going to start fighting and taking out all the bad guys, Bane yells out, show yourself, angel. Okay, and then we have this conversation from someone off screen. He says, I have already shown myself. Bane, I was with you when your mother was thrown from the walls of this place. Red Robin, I was there when Batman was struck down. Red Hood, you I know best of all. When I met you on the other side, obviously referring to whenever Jason died. You have no secrets from me because you have no secrets from God. And I am his righteous blade, the last to die, his angel of death. I am Azrael. Overall, I really enjoy these issues. It seemed like since the last James Tynion issue, these ones have really been picking up and have been a whole lot better. I really like in this issue how Jason and Tim got most of the screen time. You know, you could say it that way. The one thing that I did think seemed very, very forced was the introduction of Bane.
Yeah.
You know, they go to this island and then Bane just happens to be there. I mean, I understand it. You know, he's like, this is my island. I need to protect it and all of that stuff. But it just seemed like the creators or the writers were like, hey, we need Bane in this story, so how can we get him there? But maybe they'll kind of clean that up a little bit with doing a flashback later. I don't think they will, but to me that just seemed kind of forced.
Just chalking up to it's a small world.
Right, there you go. It's a small world. There's only so many super villains and Robins. I did see a long time ago that they were going to introduce a character who had not appeared in the New 52 from the pre-52. And I was, with how this story was all playing out, I was really hoping that it would be Batman of Zur-En-Arr. I thought that, with this mind wiping and forgetting and cloning and all this stuff, I thought it would have fit very, very well. So whenever I saw it was Azrael, I was excited because I think he's a cool character, but I was like, oh, that means that my theory was wrong.
Yeah, sorry.
No, but that's okay. But overall, I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 4 out of 5 Batman symbols. I enjoyed it. I like the pace of it, and it's now starting to pick up, which I knew it would all along. I really can kind of see this going somewhere cool.
This issue, I really enjoyed the Red Robin and Red Hood focus. I like those two playing off against each other, how Tim's trying to stay focused, but Jason keeps making jokes. I really love that. And I love that they brought in Bane. I don't care if it was just coincidence. Bane's one of my favorite villains. He's a really smart guy. They don't give him enough credit. And he's funny in his own right. He says stuff very he's kind of like Drax, I guess, from Guardians of the Galaxy movie, where, he says these things very literally, and they are funny in themselves. Anyway, but besides that, I think overall it's a pretty good issue. I still feel that the Dick and Harper Row relationship may be a little forced, but I think that it's still a good parallel to classic Batman and Robin. That being said, overall, it's a very fun issue. I like introducing Azrael. That's pretty cool. I like the costume being red instead of white. It looks good.
Flaming sword's really sweet.
Yes. What could make something cooler but to add flames to it?
Very good.
It works for cars. Overall, I would say I would give this one another 3.5 Robin symbols out of 5. It's a good issue. I liked it pretty well. I still think it could get better, but it's a fun one.
Yeah. So overall, that is a 7.5 out of 10 for Batman and Robin Eternal number 9. Good job, guys.
So now we're going to talk about All New X-Men number 1, written by Dennis Hopeless and pencils by Mark Bagley. Nick, would you like to inform them what the heck is going on?
Okay, to fill you in on the team, Old Blue Furry Beast went into the past and brought the original 5 X-Men to their future, which is our present. Okay, things you need to know. Old Cyclops, Scott Summers, is apparently dead. Wolverine is also dead. Okay, on this team, you have young Cyclops, you have gay Iceman, you have Beast, who is not furry, and he is dating Jean Grey. You have Fire-Winged Angel, who is dating Laura Kinney, who is now the Wolverine, and she is actually Wolverine's female clone.
Right.
Right. You have Kid Apocalypse, who is a clone of the crazy villain Apocalypse. And you have Idy, I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Okonkwo?
Sure.
I think.
Her code name is Oya, and she is also on the team.
So the issue starts off with a paper monologue here. We can't really assume who we're talking about yet, but it's going over some things about how Professor X may have been wrong about some ideas. But what we see is a couple skiing and a pair of, Wolverine-style claws come out to knock out a tree. And
It really looks like there's this chase sequence going on.
Right.
It looks like Wolverine, which is how we're going to refer to her from now on, is in trouble being chased by somebody.
And we quickly learn that it's the opposite of the case. They're having a good old time, and it's just Angel with his new fire wings hanging out with the Wolverine, young Laura Kinney here, and it's pretty obvious that they're arguing about the way they were racing, but also that they have a little fling going on between them.
Yeah, they're dating.
So as they start making out, Angel gets a phone call, and Laura tells him, you need to answer this before we get our rematch done. And it's just Beast calling from East Point, Florida. Mm-hmm. Down here in Florida, looks like young Apocalypse has been wrestling alligators.
His name is Kid Apocalypse, not Young Apocalypse.
Kid Apocalypse.
Okay.
Whatever. Clones
and it's really weird. He has this really weird kind of power, almost like Mr. Fantastic, where he can just elongate and stretch his body, and so he has this alligator wrapped up, and Hank's like, hey, that's not how you're supposed to wrestle alligators. You're supposed to let the old bald bearded guy do it. Anyway, so they end up having this conversation about all of them meeting in Colorado to go skiing and have fun together, and Beast and Idy and Kid Apocalypse are on the way to go pick up Bobby, who's in Austin, Texas, and they cannot find Cyclops.
So Hank, young Beast, figured out how to use his old Cerebro unit without a telepath to start tracking mutants. And he's been trying to triangulate exactly where Scott's been, but since Scott hasn't been really using his powers, it's making it difficult for him to find it without, the mutant powers activating the device. So Angel tells Beast, Scott, he just takes his time and stuff. He frets, then he moves on. They're probably referencing how things are kind of weird for them right now as the old Cyclops has died. The scene moves over to Chicago, Illinois, where we see these same paper-like monologue devices here, and it's Scott Summers sitting down, writing in a journal, talking about the Ghosts of Cyclops, some form of mutant gang that he's been tracking and following. When while he's sitting there, he gets interrupted by this girl who asks him to smile and get picture proof that she's actually out on a date with a boy because this neighborhood is dangerous because there are mutants about.
Yeah, she wanted to show her mom that it's okay for her, that she's okay, she's not with mutants and everything's fine. Right. But then what happens? A mutant attack.
Yep.
And water gets spewed everywhere, and then we have 6 mutants show up wearing the awesome, I think they're awesome,
the
mask,
X symbol.
The X mask that old Cyclops wore.
So they come in with their own monologue that apparently rhymes, and Cyclops immediately decides these guys are dangerous, I'm going to take them out. Without using his powers yet, he just goes in punching and dodging and punching, and these guys are like, I don't care, won't matter when we're done with him, who the heck this guy is. The cops show up, and they just kind of move on. Cyclops picks up his driver's license off of one of them, which is pretty lucky for him. And the girl is like, oh, these mutant scum or whatever, and he bails on her. He was, at first, seemed like, oh, cool, a girl interested, classic teenager. A girl talked to me, this is great. Turns out she's a mutant hater, so he just, moves on with his life.
We now cut to Austin, Texas, where Beast and Idy and Kid Apocalypse have gone to pick up Bobby, who is just starting to make a bunch of ice sculptures. He makes this really big thing, ice sculpture, and
it's clobbering time.
Yeah,
Woo!
yeah. And Beast was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" He was like, "Well, I was out somewhere, and someone asked me to make something, and it just kind of turned into me doing these sculpture things."
And they're like, "Dude, you gotta keep it, lay it low." And he's like, "It's cool. Texas is all right with mutants."
Yeah. Keep Austin weird. Austin loves mutants. As they continued to talk, Beast said, "Hey, why don't you come into our, our trailer?" And Bobby's like, "Dude, that thing is so tiny." And then they open it up.
Wagon.
Right. They open it up and they totally Harry Pottered it, where it looks like this tiny thing on the outside, and inside it's this massive, nice-looking apartment.
And Hank offers him slushies, and Iceman's like, "There are slushies?" And he's like, "Bobby, of course there are slushies."
Right. This is one thing that we need to keep note that I think it's easy to lose in comics is that these guys are all teenagers.
Right.
They're all, 14, 15, 16. And because they do all this hero stuff, we kind of lose that and we think that they're automatically older. But I like that they're throwing in kind of this high school kid kind of silly stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So the scene moves back to Chicago again, where Cyclops, young Scott Summers, is tracking down using that driver's license, or it was a student ID actually, to find one of those guys. And as he's researching in the library computer, because he doesn't have a smartphone or internet.
And he is at the library of the school of the student.
Right.
Okay, so he's in this school library.
Where, they find him, say, "I don't get you, man. You want to internet creep on me? That's fine, but do it from your home like a normal person." And then he attacks Scott.
With water, just spraying all this water out of his mouth.
Basically, he just spits a lot. Right. I mean, look at it.
That's his name, Saliva.
Right.
I just made that up. That's not true. So they have this confrontation. All of these other Ghosts of Cyclops mutants show up. They have a fight, and Scott starts fighting and kicking. And the thing that Scott knows is he actually knows tactics, and he knows how to fight. Right. These guys are just raw, buffy guys. And Scott ends up getting the crap kicked out of him.
He's a bloody mess. But over the top of this, it's still reading through his journal about how, his friends and him came from the past. This place swallowed us whole. We've kind of adapted and changed.
And he no longer calls this the future. He now calls it the present.
As they're holding Cyclops up, one of them says, "It just feels so good hurting this kid. I guess we got to ask ourselves, what would Cyclops do?" And Cyclops says, "You idiots want to know what Cyclops would do? Fine." Pulls off his glasses and lets loose.
Yeah, and it's not... His optic blasts, normally come out kind of a straight beam, but this is just it's almost like a bomb coming out of his head where just everyone is getting leveled, pushed back from his force blast.
But thanks to Scott using his optic blasts, we go back and see that Beast is able to locate him, found him in Chicago, and he tells one of the little Bamps, this guy named Pickles, long story about why there's a baby Nightcrawler eating Pringles, but he needs him to teleport them, and they immediately show up right at Scott's aid.
Because Scott used these optic blasts and he did it knocked him out. Like he used all of his energy and he has passed out on the ground, and these guys are like, okay, now we can take care of this guy.
In fact, they say, we're going to take him with us. And Iceman shows up and says, yeah, I don't see that ending particularly well for you as the X-Men assemble. So I thought this issue was really, really fun, more than anything
definitely.
else. I mean, it picks up a lot of these crazy, weird plot things that have been happening through X-Men and part of the Marvel Universe for a while. So it's kind of dizzying if you don't know what's going on. But the writing for teenagers, Dennis Hopeless does a good job writing each character uniquely, kind of have fun interactions. But there is kind of the serious side with Scott dealing with some internal monologue about him versus old Scott and how he doesn't want to be that guy. But I think it's a lot of fun. I like the character contrast. I would probably give this one a 3.5 out of 5 red X-Men symbols. I enjoyed it a lot.
If there was one kind of team that I have always gravitated toward, it has been the X-Men. I have always enjoyed them, even whenever it breaks away from the core members, the core members that I would always consider myself would be, Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, Rogue, those guys. But I enjoy this. I have also really enjoyed the Marvel Now All New X-Men bringing the past X-Men into the present, future.
Their future,
our present. There you go. Yeah. I really enjoy that. I like the interaction. Bobby, every time I read him, I forget that he's funny. Like, I think for some reason he gets lost. We always think of Deadpool or Spider-Man as like these ridiculous funny characters, but Iceman Bobby is really funny.
He's legitimately funny.
Yeah, he is legitimately funny. I'm really excited to kind of see where this go. I like that they're bringing in these Ghosts of Cyclops guys to.
They're somewhat reminiscent of the Sons of Batman or whatever from the Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. Like that type of character where they don't really know what that guy was about, so they think they're just putting that face on.
Right, definitely. These guys that are very mysterious, and they think that what Cyclops did was very noble. Me as a reader, and I read it all, I was very conflicted, I guess, reading all of the stuff that old Cyclops did, after he had killed Professor Xavier. In saying all of that, I'm very excited to see where this goes. I really like the writing of Dennis Hopeless, and so I will give this one a 4 out of 5 yellow X-Men symbols. So overall, that is a 7.5 out of 10.
That's one of our better scores yet.
It is. So check this book out. Do it. So make sure you let us know in the comments below what you think. Are you excited about Batman and Robin Eternal #9? Are you excited with the pace of where it's going? And also, what do you think of All New X-Men #1? Do you like this team? Do you like the young characters, or are you like an old school person? You're like, I don't want these young kids in here. I want to get back to my X-Men. Whatever. Well, let us know in the comments below what you think.
And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'd like to reach out on Twitter especially. That's been our medium lately. Other than that, we'll see you next week with another video.
Bye.
Cowabatka.
We'll put that at the very end.
I think so.